You're listening to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Britt. Guided by my own intuition, my intention is to deliver genuine conversations centered around health and wellness, spirituality, self-expression, and culture. In this space, I will provide you with real-life stories, theories, and inspiring perspectives to help you uncover and tap into your own true potential. I'm so grateful you've chosen to tune in with me on this mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. Now let's dive into today's journey. Welcome to the Loving Your Own Soul Weekly Digest. If you are new around here, I'm Britt, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Every Thursday, I will digest and decode a different health and wellness, spiritual, trending, or cultural topic so that you can better understand and feel more on trend in the ever-changing world we live in. And this week, this is actually a really special week. So this episode is coming out on Thursday, April 15th, the day after my birthday. My birthday was the day before on April 14th, 31. Woo! So I thought that it would be fun to change it up and do an episode answering some of your questions as to how life has been transitioning from my 20s to my 30s in the last couple years, this last year experiencing 30 in general, 20s questions, birthday questions, all the things. So yeah, happy birthday to myself. Happy birthday to my other fellow Aries out there. It was so fun whenever I posed this kind of open question and answer option on Instagram. I got so many responses from fellow Aries sisters and brothers. Well, I didn't have any brothers, but sisters and brothers, however you identify out there. I myself love being an Aries sun, and yeah, it's just such a fun time of year with spring, truly just kind of budding all over the US. And yeah, obviously I'm partial to it, but so let's go ahead and jump into some of your questions. So like I said, I got so many Team Aries, love Aries. I love Aries as well. And my birthday, so a couple of you asked when my birthday specifically is. And like I just said, it is on April 14th. And I'm actually super partial to the day that I was born, 4/14. I absolutely love it. It is one of my favorites. There's something about that number combination that really just does it for me. And what's interesting about my birthday is it actually happens to land on the day that the Titanic hit the iceberg and started sinking. The Titanic did not actually sink until April 15th, and not to be super gruesome, but I have always held an obsession with the Titanic really my whole life ever since it first, when the motion picture first came out in I think 1998 it was, when I was 8 years old. And yeah, I just really had such a fascination with it. And then that really spurred my fascination with oceanography and archaeology came a little bit before that, but mostly just sinking ships and the underwater world. And then in a past life regression, I actually understood that I had a past life that was on an old ship called the Arctic that actually sank as well. That was coming over from, I think it was either Ireland or Scotland, over to the US for people to move to the US. And what was unique about that ship was that a lot of the men grabbed the children, and some didn't even grab the children, but most of the men on the Arctic actually were getting in the lifeboats, and a lot of the women were left behind and were the ones who passed away. So that was interesting. But anyway, I digress. Yes, April 14th is my birthday. Team Aries, which is so much fun. Some of you had also asked what are also my moon and rising sign astrologically. So I'm an Aries sun, obviously, and then a Sagittarius moon and a Cancer rising. So fire, water, if you're familiar, but really that Aries sun, which is a fire sign, and then Cancer rising is a water, really kind of balances each other out really nicely. And upon understanding that I had so much of that Cancerian energy within myself, really just explained a lot to me, and I felt so seen, and honestly kind of like personality wise, like I finally made sense. So if you are not familiar with your birth chart, your sun, moon, and rising sign, there are so many wonderful astrologers out there. The first two who kind of come to mind would be Katie Greenfield, who Katie and I actually do monthly astrology updates over on my Holistic Wellness Instagram account, Ambu Wellness, every month. And then Natalie Holbrook is another wonderful practicing astrologer as well. All right, so next question. How was it turning 30 in quarantine? Big birthday plans this year? I love this question because turned 30 in quarantine in April, kind of right at the height of quarantine, which was exciting. I mean, March definitely was, but come April, it was like, okay, are we in, are we out? And down here in Florida was when really the only time we kind of went into a quarantine was for those first 3 weeks of April there. But for me, so birthday plans this year, so not really a birthday plan, so to say, but my husband Dan and I, we are actually going to Santa Teresa, Costa Rica for about a week in the beginning of April, and then we'll actually be flying back on my birthday. And I absolutely love flying, so I get so much creative inspiration on an airplane. So some people could be like, ugh, travel day on your birthday, that sucks, but honestly, I love being on airplanes and haven't been on them hardly at all, really zero. I went on one into Atlanta this last February, about 2 months ago from now, which was my first time in a year being on an airplane. And usually I would be on an airplane several times a year, more than several. But yeah, so we will be in Costa Rica before my birthday. And then, we get to fly home on my birthday, which for me, being on an airplane, cannot complain. I love the act of travel, which would be my Sag moon there for any of you astrology junkies. But how is it turning 30 in quarantine? So it's so funny to kind of really reflect back on a year from now because so much has changed. Not changed, yes, but more, I kind of like the word more evolved or shifted. But for me, turning 30 in quarantine was absolutely amazing. It was so special. It really brought to light just the fact that everything I need or want is everything I already have, and that all the beauty is really within myself and within my relationships. So it's so funny. I actually remember my birthday so clearly. My husband and I, we got up and we went for a run because we were training for a half marathon at the time. He ran before me. He's also faster than me, so he always finishes before me, but he met me at the end. I think we had a really long run that day too, but he met me at the end with our dog Mocha and just some birthday signs, just kind of silly. And then he had breakfast for us, coffee. He actually ordered in Baked by Melissa's. I don't know if you guys know her. She started up in New York. I think she might be national now, but you can order online these little mini cupcakes, gluten-free ones. And then he had also ordered, I am forgetting the name of it. Oh, that's what it is. Milk Bar, gluten-free and vegan cake. Milk Bar from New York, again, if you're not familiar, is phenomenal. And I do not eat a lot of sweets, so he really kind of like went all out on the sweets, and they were amazing. I had so much fun indulging in having little mini cupcakes for breakfast with fruit and coffee. But I was not aware, however, Dan had actually contacted a lot of my close friends and family members and had everybody submit a little video wishing me happy birthday, and then he put it all together and played it for me. He also had people submit photos of me, so my parents sent ones in from childhood, friends like throughout college and the 20s, and it was just so special. I was crying. I was so surprised. I had no idea, and it was really just those simple moments of seeing the strong relationships that I have in my life, how much people care for me, and just the close bonds that exist, and how, at that point in time, we had really had a lot of our freedom, quote unquote, stripped away from us. It was such a situation of being out of control, not knowing what the future would hold. And sometimes having like the big flashy, woohoo, turning 30, going out to the bars, birthday can be exciting and fun. But honestly, just being at home with my husband and our dog, and then seeing all my friends and family submit such heartfelt videos was amazing. And they were just so unique and individual, and really highlighted just all the incredible, unique people I have in my life. And I was just so touched that he went out of the way to do that for me. And yeah, we're lucky. We were in Florida at the time again, so we had the pleasure of being outside for the rest of the day, going to the pool, and then Dan had also bought a really nice bottle of champagne that night, and we splurged and had a charcuterie board, which for those of you who know me, I really do not do dairy, but really, really nice cheese with a really nice glass of champagne is that like treat yourself, worth it moment where you are just so present and you enjoy every single flavor, all of it, instead of just like numbing out on the couch, gorging on something. And then we had cake and of course a beautiful sunset and home cooked dinner. And yeah, it was honestly just beautiful. Not how I would have expected I would have spent my 30th birthday, but I truly could not have asked for anything better. So it was really, really wonderful and just really showed me who are the most present people in my life. So that was fun. Anyway, next question. If I had known you in your 20s, would I recognize you today? This is such a fun question. And first answer that comes to mind is I would say yes, absolutely. However, a lot has shifted and evolved since my 20s. So I definitely think that you would recognize me. I do think that there's a lot of ways that I'm very much still the same person. I'm just like an up-leveled version of that person, and I'm really embodying today the person and version that my 20-year-old something self always wanted me to be and always knew that I was capable of. And of course, there's so much more to go. I mean, the road ahead is endless, but where I am right now is really doing all the things that me wanted me to be doing for so many years, yet I was so lost and confused and out of touch with my own voice and a people pleaser and listening to what I thought I should be doing, what I thought others wanted me to be doing, and really just quickly became so disconnected from my true self that deep down, she knew what she wanted. So yeah, I just feel like I've really just gotten more in touch with myself and more just comfortable and strong around who I am, and I'm kind of over the small talk, over the fake friendships, the fake acquaintances, the trying to bite my tongue to fit into a certain scenario, and really am just me in the most comfortable version of me, and it feels so good. And I know that my 20-something-year-old self would just be so happy to see where I sit today. Next question. Dun, dun, dun. How was your Saturn return? So everybody always wants to know about the Saturn return. I totally get it. I didn't understand Saturn returns until I was deep into mine. One thing I will say is that Saturn returns kind of can hold a stipulation around something to be fearful of, because it can be just a time where you learn a lot about yourself and you have a lot of lessons to kind of overcome. However, I would not be scared of your Saturn return. I would kind of embrace it with open arms, because Saturn isn't against you. Saturn just wants you to learn and grow, and is really going to like hold tightly to you to ensure that you learn what you're supposed to learn so that you can progress and evolve through life. So while yes, it may get uncomfortable at times, sure, but that's also the beauty of it, because we have to get uncomfortable in order to get comfortable. So do not fear your Saturn return. And some people too do not have bad Saturn returns. Some people will go through more experiences ahead of their Saturn return or after, or have little lighter ones. Like, everyone is so different. So I definitely wouldn't, also you don't want to like unconsciously manifest negative things to happen to you, because remember, like attracts like, whether that's good for good or bad for bad. So definitely don't like try to anticipate your Saturn return too much, and really just know that, yeah, you're going to learn some things, but honestly, when are we not learning and growing? And if you're listening to this episode, you survived 2020, and yeah, I think that says enough. So for me though, my Saturn return, I had a lot of lessons. And that's really what it is. I learned a lot about myself, my relationships with people, my boundaries or lack thereof, career, listening to myself, listening to my intuition, being disconnected, embodying, the shadow self, going through the dark night of the soul. I mean, I definitely went through the trenches, but in hindsight, it was nothing that I couldn't handle. And I do believe that life doesn't throw you anything that you can't handle. And yes, there were some scenarios that I thought, life cannot get any worse than this. Why is all of this happening to me? But then I quickly just kept coming back to my favorite phrase of things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And that is so true, especially in looking at my Saturn return. Everything was happening for me. I was being divinely guided. The universe had my back. My guides were with me. And the things I was able to walk through, although yes, it felt rocky and treacherous at times, I made it out and I couldn't be more happy. But my Saturn return too, there was the height of it, which is kind of that 29 through 30 to 31-ish. But then I also still will kind of feel the energy through 32. So I'm not completely done yet, although I definitely can feel that the veil has lifted, and it's so nice. Second question to that point, what was the biggest lesson from your Saturn return? And I love this question, by the way. The biggest lesson from my Saturn return, I think was boundaries. And not boundaries in the sense like, we're hearing all over Instagram and social media and podcast world, like boundaries with family and boundaries with friends and things like that. Mine was mostly boundaries centered around work, boundaries within myself and boundaries of my true self and what means the most to me. Learning how to say no, exercising saying no, understanding that I really had to experience and explore a whole lot of things to get to where I am career-wise. So my Saturn return was very, very career-oriented and very boundary-oriented around my Saturn return. Yeah, biggest lesson, I think, might even just be to trust myself and coming back home to me and really getting honest about what actually matters in my life. And it's interesting because I've had some individuals say to me like, oh, aren't you so glad you made it out of that phase, or you're not that person? And those words are kind of hurtful to me when I hear them, because I also kind of also laugh at them, because I'm like, okay, you're holding kind of a judgment and a persona around something I experienced and like an identity to that. But for me, it was nothing I identified with. It was just something I experienced. And I'm talking about burnout and being a workaholic and having so much going on that I couldn't even articulate it, yet other people in my life were taking it personally. And in the effect, I was like hanging on by a thread. And I realize now I had a lot of just depression and anxiety that filled that time of my life that I have to really work now to strip away and cut the cords and move away from. But I was really left hanging all by myself during a very, very rough period of my life, and it's no fault to anyone or any of my relationships or anything like that, because we're all, again, just experiencing and going through their own journey. However, yeah, it was a lot. I was very, very alone through a pretty big portion of it. And when I say alone, like I had my relationship, which was great, but I was just going through so much I didn't know how to express. And then when certain dialogues came my way because they weren't understanding my situation, it really just unfurled me. But it was also something that, was necessary to experience so I can be where I am today. So I'm grateful for all of it. I'm really just grateful for everything I experienced, because in looking back, it's just so cool to see how it all pieces together. Anyway, though, I'm rambling at this point. I'm also really tired, I realize, as I'm recording this. So stick with me here. Next question, kind of spinning off of that last one in a way, is what was it like transitioning from your 20s to your 30s? And honestly, amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. Yes, rocky for sure, but to me, the 20s are such an incredible and pivotal moment of your life. Like, if you're in your 20s right now, live up every single second of it, especially if you're kind of before age 26 to 27. But they're also trial and error, and you learn a lot, and it's really hard, especially when, what part of your brain is it? I think it's like the prefrontal or frontal cortex of your brain really starts like taking shape around age 24 to 25. So you can start to feel really lost and disconnected and kind of in this weird search of your identity and what's meaningful to you. And in understanding that, looking back at those ages of my life, I'm like, oh yeah, 100%. But at the same time, like, the 20s is so much fun. And honestly, I think it's way more fun than college because you're making your own money. You have income. You're able to go out and be free and just do and experience life so much more vastly and differently. And you really can't fail because you're just learning things and it's only you. Like, there's no one else typically at stake in this moment of this very prime and pivotal time of your life. So get out there and live it up and do something that you've never done before, please, because you will never get this time back. But then transitioning into my 30s has been so beautiful. I love every single year that I step into. To me, getting older is nothing that I fear, and it's not like, oh God, now I'm 30. I'm more like, fuck yeah, I'm 30. Like, it just keeps getting better and better, and the more that I get to understand myself and the world around me and become more in tune, it's awesome. So getting older honestly is nothing to fear. More so embrace it, but also embrace every year and don't let certain years pass you by. And yeah, it's a myth that you're going to have everything figured out after college. If anything, I would say it's really those last couple years leading up to your 30s and into your early 30s where you really start figuring it out. So up until then, like, take the pressure off, have fun. Things are going to shift and evolve and ebb and flow and mold, and yeah, just do it. I mean, I see a lot of young people stepping into roles and kind of doing really great things at such young ages, but it's also like you have so much time ahead of you and it's all going to happen as it should. So don't push yourself right now. Get out there and have fun. If you're spending time on your computer 7 days a week, shut it down Saturday and Sunday and get out there and enjoy your life. Even though we're like edging away from the hustle mentality, there's still a lot out there who are still trying to do a lot of things on the weekends. And like, you're never going to look back and be like, wow, thank goodness I spent all that time behind my computer in my 20s. Like, shut it down, get out there, go have fun, because you're never going to get this independent part of your life back. Oh, well, last question is advice for someone who's in their early 20s, which I think I just answered that. So sorry about that, kind of going backwards. I didn't even see that question. Well, yeah, just live it up. You have so much more time than you know what to do with right now, and I promise you that. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't get caught up on Instagram. Don't get caught up comparing yourself. Put it all away. I'm just now figuring things out, and I've experienced, honestly, the world. I've done so many different things, and none of it is negative. If anyone calls you a job hopper, send them a lot of grace. We are not job hoppers. We are just figuring out life to step into the most abundant and bountiful and evolved versions of ourselves. But in your 20s, have fun. Have as much fun as possible and enjoy your independence, because there's truly no time like it. But I think that is it for today. I love answering these questions. Definitely feel free to connect with me on Instagram if you haven't yet, at Loving Your Own Soul. And I look forward to continuing the journey with you again soon.